is ready for the next episode? Salutations. Thank you for being here. I'm here, you're here, we're all here for part 2. I mentioned in part 1, I was going to summarize part 1 before going into part 2. With that being said, I know I was going to possibly bring up part 2 before the week ended, but I found more details in part 1. We'll go over some of the questions you had in part 1. Therefore, I'm going to put in the description when part 2 starts. So if you want to go straight to part 2, go for it. There's probably going to be a part 3. I'm going to do what I'm doing in part 1 to do to part 2. And then there's a part 3. I hope that's not too confusing. But, so there's going to be a part 3. So in part 2, we're going to go over the other deaths and the other 2 students who had tragedies surrounding them prior to going to the university, as well as the WSU student who's associated with a particular fraternity that I was looking more into. In part 1, we learned a lot about that specific fraternity that I was surprised about at the amount of information that was involved with them. So, let's get started. Part 1. So, we are learning about the deaths of the students associated with the University of Idaho between the years of 2018 and 2022, which is 4 years. The students that we covered so far in part 1 is these 4 students. Katherine Groggett, she passed September 14th, 2018. Max Fulfer, he passed March 25th, 2019. I still have not been able to find his date of birth. And a shout out to Bubbly. I did a background check with all of these students and who's associated with them to get more information. These are the details I'm talking about, and you will see as we go through. The person that we spoke about last in part 1 was Hailey King, and she passed August 28th, 2020. If you recall, COVID, the global shutdown, was March 11th, 2020. We jumped to Richard Symms because Richard and Katherine went to a formal together. He passed July 15th, 2022, which in August 16th, 2022 was that proactive, we better not get a noise complaint at 1122. We also learned that Richard is Max's big, and they're in the same fraternity that Jack Decor and Adam Latta are in. For those who know and those who don't know, there is footage of Kaye, Maddie, and Jack Showalter walking from the corner club to the grub truck, where it sounds to me that Kaye asked Maddie, "What did you say to Adam?" And Maddie said, "I told Adam everything." Now, Adam and Jack are roommates and lived on King Road. He was also a bartender at the corner club, Adam, but was not working there at the time. So a lot of information in this case. We went into numerology briefly with the address of the house as well as the date of the massacre. And 1122 are master numbers. Also 33. Thank you for those in the comments for saying that. So 11 is the 2 survivors. We have 2 separate incidences, we believe, and 2 separate couples, so to speak. Ethan and Xana were dating at the time, and Kaylee and Maddie, it's a forever thing. They've been best friends for a very long time. We learned that they were not getting along prior to the massacre, but that's going to happen with best friends, especially if you've been best friends for that long. Life can rock a relationship. So here's 11/13/2022, which is the date of the massacre. 2 survivors, 1 male and 3 females. And I brought up Officer Rosendahl because he, in my opinion, is a key player. And yes, he's an officer, and there's people who have thoughts and opinions towards him, which you're entitled to, absolutely. But the way I see him is he's part of the problem, not the solution. So we learned here July 20th, 2022, we learned that he is originally from Moscow. So he's a townie. He became an officer in a different state and came back to Moscow to be an officer before this massacre happened. And he took a picture of Kaylee's ID, not of the other folks at 1127, I believe, King Road. He was there at the night of the massacre on Taylor Avenue, undercover with an unmarked car, a white Prius, which the students that they stopped to give citations to never even seen that car before, didn't even recognize it, which is a red flag in my opinion. And you can't hear a Prius driving around. Not only that, many people, and I kind of see it too, it does look like an Elantra. So that whole citation undercover looked planned to me. So this is about Ms. Martin. Some of you had questions about her because I didn't go into detail. It was part of the other video. But we went into the car accident that was fatal for her. That says March 16th, 2024. She was in her Ford Escape and she collided with a Volvo tractor trailer. The reason I brought her up was because she asked two very important questions, which were, one, are they looking into the ROTC program at the university because they are issued K-bar knives? And here, number two, which I brought up this article, which she is asking if killer may be female. So this article says, woman exposed as fake reporter at Idaho murders press conference after asking if killer may be female. And this is published December 2nd, 2022. So it talks about here how she's at the press conference for the quadruple murder case that happened on November 13th of Madison Mogan, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. And a fortnight later, which I didn't know, means 14 days later, the police have yet to identify any suspects. So this press conference was November 23rd, and she identified herself as Destiny Martin with the Pathfinder, the student newspaper at Lewis Clark State College in Lewiston, Idaho, and proceeded to ask questions, which is, if the FBI's Behavior Analysis Unit agents had a working profile of the suspect and whether police had ruled out the possibility that the killer might be a female. So they find out that she is not with the Pathfinder. She lied about that, which you cannot have false pretenses going into a situation like that. Just like with Burgess at the Karen Reed case, he lied about having a bachelor's for 17 years. It's not about him not having one. It's about him lying about it. And yes, we do lie on our resumes to bolster it up, pump it up, whatever, but it's little things. Dates, so on and so forth, but not education, not saying that you are part of a newspaper where credibility is huge when you are doing these types of cases, reporting. So even though she asked amazing questions, it gets covered up by lying. As well as Burgess. In the Karen Reed, he had a great idea by using the SD card of the phone for time and date. And was asking the defense witness who was on the stand recently, Friday, the prosecutor is like, isn't that a great idea? Basically, he's trying to bolster it up. But guess what? Burgess lied. So it doesn't matter. You can't lie about those things. So here we're going to go into Katherine real quick with a couple of extra details that I am going to bring up. So Katherine, someone also picked up on this, Brianne KG95, which I do find interesting. I would like to learn more about that. So this is her Insta, and this is Ian with the purple heart. We'll see this again. And the voodoo donuts with Ian with his tongue out, and I will do more information about voodoo donuts. Thank you for that comment. I'll find a way to fit it in a video. Here is the fraternity he's affiliated with, Phi Delta Theta. That's the street view. So Katherine got hit she got hit by a white Dodge Durango heading east into the Clearwater River Casino and Lodge, which is 30 miles south of the university. Now, what is to note here is that the multi-crashes and fatalities happen going in on the west end, and she went in on the east end. Now, some of you picked up on that, and I did look into the person who crashed into her, and he does have a colorful past when it's in regards to the law. So we'll keep that in mind, because going into these students, several of them did get tickets. And thank you for the person who commented, did any of them get arrested or have any type of tickets? And I looked into that, and yes, some of them do. So we'll go into it. So could it be that, yes, he may have been paid to do that? Or was it just him being who he is with his bad decisions? And the way that we've been learning how the law enforcement operates in Moscow, it's hard not to think of the worst. Because all they have done to us is lied. A lot. So there is a couple details I want to go over with this article, which is through the Argonaut. And we did go over this, but specifically, I mentioned the walkies, and some of you picked up on that. But I want to go a step further. So here is Garo, which is Katherine's roommate at the time. So she says, Garo offered was a time during their sophomore year at the U of I. So at that time, they were sophomores. Katherine was not the president of the Deltas. She was president of them at third year, so she was a junior. So this is their sophomore year. They're driving up to Moscow from the Treasure Valley separately, but still together in spirit. We were in separate cars, but we had these walkie-talkies. We talked on them the entire 6 hours. We were just singing back and forth on the walkies and making weird comments about what we saw, and we played I Spy. We weren't together, and then it purposely spaces. I was in front of her, and spaces again, but we were having a really good time, which is very strange. I didn't pick up on this before. To me, this sounds like someone who wants us to know that she was the leader. I was in front of her, but we were having a really good time. That's such an odd thing to say, especially after this person who was your roommate passed, and you gave the sticky note to her mom at the funeral. So they're both sophomores. Katherine ends up being the president. Now on the walkies, I don't know too much about walkies, but I asked some people, and you can hear on those channels. The distance may be too far, possibly, but why weren't they just talking on their phones? And after a while of 6 hours, do you remember everything you hear and say? So with her making this comment, I was in front of her, sounds like she's calculated. in my opinion. So we'll look at her Facebook real quickly. Mcgonegal says here she's a policy analyst at Governor's Office of Energy and Mineral Resources. She lives in Boise, and she's in a relationship, it looks like, with another female. And if you see me pausing here, it's because I'm clearing my throat or taking a drink or telling my dogs to stop barking. So her last post here on Facebook is April 22nd, 2024. It looks like possibly Bigfoot. But what I find strange, and there's very few pictures, and these are the two pictures that she has besides this one. And this one, which is always smiling with you. And this is 2 days after the fatal car accident of Katherine. And she has 2 purple hearts. Now, Delta, 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 their colors are blue, gold, and white. And pansies tend to be blue. So I really believe that this has something to do with the anti-hazing. Because within the Greek system, purple is their color for these hands don't haze. Something to think about. And here are the pictures. So here she's got an ice cream cone, a waffle cone in front of her face, as well as these flowers. And they're relatively around the same time, March 15th, 2017, and July 10th, 2017. So it's kind of like an I see you and I spy. When I first saw this, that's the first thing I thought in my mind was I see you, and I thought of Brent Kopaka. But that it's just strange. And then the comments were, I miss your face, even if it's covered behind a bouquet of flowers, B. And those flowers are pretty, but I think you're prettier. Like, what in the heck? What in the world? It's so strange to me. So here's the information about the crash. And as I mentioned, I believe, she was coming in on the east end. Most of those crashes happened going in on the west. I did find it interesting that her write-up here is very small compared to the others. Her big write-up came from the Argonaut. But what I was able to find on this post was Tim Philbin, and it talks about Christy and Scott, which was also brought up as her parents in the Argonaut. So when I looked up Katherine Groggett and her background check, which a lot of employers do this, it's public information. It just gives the details on your name, date of birth, any of the addresses that you resided at, your employment history, anything to do with the court system, as well as financials and any type of connections you may have, meaning associations with and family. When I put in Katherine Groggett's name, it is absolutely nothing. It is blank. Her parents do show up. And I was able to find her parents, but not her. So her dad, it does say that he worked at that Air Force base that we went over with in part 1 and last week, that where she lives in Homeland has a major Air Force base there, and he was a master sergeant. He looks older. I think he's retired. It looks that way on his Facebook. He was a master sergeant and is a rank in the Idaho Air National Guard. We talked about this last week, so we're not going to go over it again, but I do want to point out one aspect, which is Mountain Home Air Force Base. I hope I said that right prior. It's this right here, Air Combat Command in 1992. So the Air Combat Command, ACC, is one of 9 major commands in the United States Air Force, reporting to headquarters, United States Air Force at the Pentagon. It is the primary provider of air combat forces for the Air Force, and it is the direct successor to Tactical Air Command. Air Combat Command is headquartered at Langley Air Force Base, Joint Base Langley, Eustis, Virginia, United States. So, the Mountain Home Air Force Base, which is where Katherine is from, has that major Air Force base. Her dad is a master sergeant there at some point of time. And it says her mom is a CEO of a major company, which I want to have another source to verify that before I say that out loud. And I brought that to our attention prior because of Brett Payne and the amount of military that is surrounding this case, including Brett Kopaka and Brett Payne. Here he has a brother, Kyle. They're a few years apart. So real quick, this is CDA, which the three of the victims were from. Familiar face in a distant land. So Kyle Payne, I think they got this wrong. This is definitely Brett. And this is Kyle. So this was published September 1st, 2012. So we're getting a little information about Brett Payne, who is the lead investigator of this case. So Kyle Payne calls it remarkable luck. The Army First Lieutenant from St. Mary's recently reunited with his brother, and that SPC means specialist, Brett Payne, while serving in Afghanistan, which I believe Brent Kopaka also did. The odds are pretty crazy, Kyle said. We started in completely different units that are stationed on opposite sides of the U.S. So it says here, Kyle 25 is attached to the 2nd Brigade of the 2nd Infantry Division out of Fort Lewis, Washington, that's stationed in the Kandahar province of southern Afghanistan. Brett 23, and this is back in 2012, is with the 4th Brigade at the 82nd Airborne Division of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. The two are University of Idaho graduates and are often mistaken for twins, despite being 2 years apart. So it says here the brothers are only stationed 10 kilometers apart, but in a country that has thousands of American soldiers and dozens of small outposts, the chances of reunion were slim. So, with that being said, what is the 82nd Airborne Division? Well, it's a highly regarded airborne infantry division in the United States Army, known for its rapid deployment capabilities and specialization in joint forcible entry operations. Based at Fort Liberty, formerly Fort Bragg, which we just mentioned in that article, North Carolina, it serves as the primary fighting arm of the 18th Airborne Corps. The division's nickname, All-American Division, interesting division with that word, reflects its origins as a diverse infantry unit during World War I. Key characteristics and roles: rapid deployment. The 82nd Airborne Division is designed to deploy rapidly within 18 hours of notification, making it a crucial element of the nation's global response force. Forcible entry. It specializes in parachute assaults and airfield seizure, allowing it to conduct combat operations in enemy-denied areas and joint operations. The 82nd Airborne Division is adept at collaborating with other branches of the military and international allies. So, I know many of you, your brain is starting to explode because of all the details that are out there about this case. we have company, so the dogs are acting crazy. So I know many of you, your head's going to explode because of the details that are out there about this case. One off of my head is in regards to Lindow Lane, where people were seeing there were helicopters. I did mention that light. That was strange, but I do believe that's because of a truck that has those headlights at the top. I can see that more than a helicopter because you really can't hear it. And then in regards to the time that Kaylee ends up being at 1122 to be the +1 for Dylan, and the amount of time that she is there is very, very brief and dramatic and tragic, as well as there is talks that Kaylee said that she saw people or a person up in the tree. So I know your head's going to explode, but this is possibly the reason why that they had him be the lead investigator, which is because of his experience of being a specialist of the 82nd Airborne Division. And from what we've learned with the case, when his hearing, when he was on the stand, that they had a lead perpetrator, but the FBI came and handed him information and said, go find information about this person. This is your prime suspect now. And he went ahead and did it without asking any questions because he's part of that division, which is adept at collaborating with other branches of the military and international allies. He didn't ask any questions. He just did it. And that's what military men are. They're just, I hate to say it like this, they're yes people. They do it without asking questions, which is dangerous. That is very dangerous. And a lot of people who I know who are in the military, who are ex-military, they had a hard time with that in regards to this particular war because of they realized that they were the monsters going into this country and just killing innocent people. So, moving on. As I mentioned before, Katherine had no information about her whatsoever. When I typed her information in, her name, in the background check, nothing showed up. 0 results. With Maisie, it was like that at one point, but now, recently, she does come up, but with an E instead of an A. The date of birth is correct. Where she lives is correct. It doesn't say anything about her going to the university. It doesn't say anything about her having siblings or relatives of Hunter. But it does have her parents' names. Now, when I look up Hunter, there's no Hunter Chapin that matches with what you need, which is age and places he has lived. So there's nothing on Hunter. And there is on Ethan, but it gets mixed in with another Ethan Chapin who goes to Washington State University. It has Ethan's date of birth. It has that he's deceased. But then it says that he goes to Washington State University. And then he works for some Scream Productions, which when I looked it up, it comes off as one of those like small companies that go place to place to do haunted houses type scenarios, which is very odd. So real quick with Ian. Now, I mentioned earlier in part 1 that the account base is in France, which I thought maybe with that being said, just at face value, he may be an exchange student. Not true. He is from Juneau Douglas High School. He's from Juneau, Alaska. So he lied on his Insta saying he's based out of France because why? He wants to be a model. That's where you lie about stuff like that. When you're being something that's not serious, like that serious. Lying about your education to put someone in life in prison, that is not something that you lie about. Because if she's found guilty, she's going to prison for life. And you are on the witness stand giving out information to lock her up. And you're lying about your education. See the difference? Lying about being based out of France because you want to be a model is totally different. So he lied because he is from a small town. He wants to go in the great big world. Ian. So he did get a ticket August 3rd, 2018 in Juneau, Alaska for driving without proof of insurance, was fined $500, over $500, which is a lot. But I could see that happening in an area like this because it doesn't generate a lot of money. I grew up in a small town and I would get speeding tickets going in back roads because that's how they generate their money. And the disposition, meaning in court, happened on August 6, 2018. Recall this is his first post on his Insta, which is October 9th, 2018. And, that happened after the accident, and he's in Los Angeles. So he does go to Katherine's funeral. It's on Facebook. And he does speak, and he sounds a lot like Jake at the celebration of life when he talks about Maddie. Very sincere and crying, trying to keep it together. So I could see why he would want to go. Sometimes it's good to leave, get some space, especially when you're in that type of a scenario at the University of Idaho when that happens. And these other three that we learned about. So before we go there, I just want to show this because this was new to me. So here I found this on his background report because it does show socials, if there are any. And this is called the Society. It's part of Insta, which I've never seen before because, well, I'm not a model. And you hit Society, Men. And it looks like these are all models that, I guess if you want to hire them for whichever, runway, parties, so on and so forth. So if you look up Ian, and there he is. And this is like his portfolio. So it gives all of his information, like his height, neck, waist, suit, chest, inseam, shoe, so on and so forth. So all that information is there if you want to hire him. And there's his work, his world, and his digitals. So he definitely has excelled in that aspect. So good for Ian. Oh no. We'll go ahead and get back to where we were, which would be Richard. So Katherine and Richard both went to a formal together. Here's the picture with that. And see how his obituary is more detailed than Katherine was. Which he went over this information. So here we're just gonna look at some of his pictures or posts that were part of beta. This is their Insta. And we'll look at the pictures that he's in. So here he is, February 5th, 2017. They've got their cigars. Here he is, November 13th, 2017. He's the member of the month. Richard Symms is a sophomore finance major here at the university. He holds the position of work chair in our house, and he is also on the ASUI funding board. Richard also spends a lot of his time helping with various projects and repairs around the house. Thank you, Richard, for your hard work this semester. So some of the comments, someone wrote, not my VP, and that's my work chair. So here, 2 days later, following elections this week, we are very proud to introduce the 2017-2018 Executive Board. They are a strong-minded group of men ready to lead and continue the Beta Theta Pi legacy, men of principle. So here we have him as Vice President, Richard Symms. So both Katherine and Richard held positions of power, so to speak, within their chapters, as well as Kaye. She was on the executive board, didn't really specify what her role was, as well as Maddie. She was in charge of marketing and something else, but marketing was her VP of marketing. So here is March 18th, 2018, spring break. And there's 4 of them there. And here they are with Delta Zeta. Here with his glasses for speech, full empathy, the Starkey Hearing Foundation. And here they put on their Insta about his death, suicide prevention helpline, and Maddie liked it. And this is September 6, 2022. So his death was July 15th, 2022. So almost 2 months later, they mention it. So let's go to Max. And I just want to go through this again. So with fraternity protocol, flags at the administrative office in Oxford has been lowered to half staff and will remain so far the next 8 days. Representative of the 8 young men of Max's same age who founded the fraternity on August 8th, 1839. So, let me just put this on pause. So it doesn't show their age. I would have to look them up. All right, I'll do that another time because they have all different... Never mind. So, they founded the fraternity on August 8th, 1839. And remember, I was only able to find these when I looked him up, and they're on Facebook. But when you hit this X, it just is blank. And here is his LinkedIn. So what I wanted to go over with him is he did have a ticket August 27th, 2017 for speeding. It was filed the next day, but then he didn't go to court until October 18th, 2017. So not a month later, but less than a month later. Which the other ones were fairly quickly. It all depends on where he got it. It doesn't specify, unlike Ian's, it did. But these other ones so far do not. So I looked in Beta for any pictures I can find of Max. So we went over a little. We're thinking this is his dad, Clay, because he is part of the fraternity. He is part of recruitment. So that means he's legacy in the fraternity world. So here, I want to say, did we go over this last time? Here he is right here, Max. And this is August 15th, 2017. Here, this is 2018, so he should be within the fraternity still. And I was not able to find him in here before, but we'll take a look again. And I do not see him here. And this is for the sweetheart, so that would be something that he would be there for. And here is April 13th for another sweetheart. So here is Richard. And this may be Max, but I don't think it is. All right, so here's February 24th. They talk about Max and how little less than a year ago they lost their brother, Max Fulfer, to suicide. As you recall, I found that information that was like a family tree, and it said his death happened at Nez Perce Road. And here is on their website, their Insta post, which is March 25th, 2020, and Maddie liked it. And they're remembering him when he passed away. So February, they're doing shirts for him. And then March, which is when he passed. And this was a year ago. So I'm going to show you how they do not mention this at all on their Insta when it happened. Here is February 24th. So here is Cole. Elliot. I know I keep saying Bennett for some reason. I think it's kind of the same block I have with Kendra. Not Jennifer, Kendra. And then here's March 1st. And he passed March 25th, 2019. So here's March 1st. They're honoring Joe Sprinkle, Member of the Week. March 9th, they're congratulating Jacob Lockhart, being elected president of the Associated Students of the University of Idaho. March 7th, a great day for bringing awareness to mental health, is 2018. So, March 1st, 2019. He passed March 25th, 2019. And they jump straight to April 9th. And he doesn't get brought up again until the following year, which I find strange. They do bring up Richard, even though it's several months later, they still bring him up. But not with Max. They wait basically a year later to honor him. Despite the previous year, 2018, they are all about bringing up awareness to mental health and self-care. So when that happens to one of their brothers, that is the perfect opportunity to talk about it. We have to continue, so on and so forth. So I found that interesting about his death. Not only can I not find his date of birth still, I did find that family tree site that talks about how he passed on Nez Perce, which is Fraternity Row, And there's very little information on him. He did get a speeding ticket in 2018. And they don't talk about him on the Insta post of his fraternity, where he has a younger brother who is there, as well as his father. And Cole Elliott. Got it right this time. So what I found out about Cole Elliott is, this is also on his background check, that he worked at Papa Murphy's, which is a restaurant company. Papa Murphy's is a take and bake pizza company based in Vancouver, Washington. It began in 1995 as the merger of two local take and bake pizza companies, Papa Aldo's Pizza and Murphy's Pizza. The company and its franchises operate more than 1,300 outlets in the United States, Canada, and the United Arab Emirates. And he says he worked there from April 28th, 2022 to February 20th, 2025. And here he says he worked for them on LinkedIn from March 2017 to May 2018, a year. So those two are conflicting. This is on his background check. So what I found interesting about this is two things. One, the Papa Murphy's, three things. Papa Murphy's, Papa Rogers, and Murphy. Now he's in the same fraternity as Jack and Adam. And his dog is named Murphy. Which his dog could be named Murphy for a number of reasons, but as well as I find poignant is United Arab Emirates, which is Abu Dhabi. And Abu Dhabi is where 3 students at the university went to school at. The Moyes, Madison, Matt. I don't think Taylor did, but he lived in Abu Dhabi with his family. And all 3 of them went to the University of Idaho and were there at the time when this happened. And we've talked about Madison before with that interview she had. So here's his Facebook. And I'm going to talk about now Cole Barenberg. Okay, with Cole Barenberg, one aspect here. So this is his LinkedIn. He's in the Army, so here's another military aspect. Google Data Analytics, Boise. So he worked at Big 5 Sporting Goods for 8 years, 2 months. So he started as a cashier November 2014 to December 2022. Okay, that's when he stopped working there. This is after the massacre. He became a part-time manager in between this time, starting in May 2020 to December 2022 for 2 years, 8 months. And there's Big 5 sports all over. And there's one in Moscow. So here it is in Moscow. And it's a sporting goods sports store. So it has all types of knives. Okay. So yes, Moscow police in Moscow, Idaho were actively searching for a fixed blade knife after the murder of 4 University of Idaho students in November 2022. The police were particularly interested in a Rambo-style knife, possibly a K-bar knife, and had even visited local hardware stores to inquire about recent sales of such knives. While a weapon was not found, police believed the killings involved an edged weapon, likely a knife. Okay, and this is AI. So we're going to go to the Idaho Statesman. And this is January 6, 2023. So police appear to be searching for a Rambo-style knife involved in the killing of 4 University of Idaho students. Scott Jute, general manager of Moscow Building Supply, told the Idaho Statesman that police have visited the store more than once to ask whether the retailer sold anyone K-bar brand knives, which are also known as K-bar knives. Idaho State Police spokesperson Aaron Snell told the Statesman on Thursday that detectives visited several local hardware stores that may carry fixed blade-type knives, but that they weren't solely asking about K-bar knives. K-bar of Olean, New York, manufactured military-grade blades that were originally designed for use by American troopers in World War II. Jute said a police officer stopped by the home improvement store in Lumberyard of North Main Street in Moscow to speak with him on Monday. They were specifically asking whether or not we carry K-bar knives, which we did not, Jute said. If we did, we could have reviewed surveillance footage, but it wasn't something I could help them with. Jute said he is familiar with the military-style weapon, even though his store doesn't sell it. Snell confirmed to the Statesman on Thursday that law enforcement made inquiries at a local hardware store as part of the investigation. Now, Natasha Rogers, manager at Tri-State Outfitters, a local sporting goods store that sells utility knives, told the Statesman in the interview Tuesday that police had not come by the store to interview anyone or inquire about the sale of a knife. On Wednesday, day 4 of their investigation, Moscow police were scheduled to hold a news conference at 3:30 Pacific time. So, they did not go to a Tri-State Outfitters, a local sporting goods store, to sell utility knives. Why am I bringing this up? Well, Cole Barenberg also worked at a sporting goods store. So if they're not going to check this one, well, then they're not going to check the other one either. Because if they check there at the Tri-State Outfitters, well, they're going to have to check the one at the 5 Sports. So we'll just stay at the local hardware stores. So let me show you where Tri-State Outfitters is, and then I'll show you where the Big 5 is. Okay, so I had already looked up Big 5, and I looked up Tri-State Outfitters, and it's not a local sporting goods store. So what I said prior still stands, because Tri-State Outfitters, here it says it is a hardware store. It's located right here along Highway 8. And here's the Kibbe. Here's the University. There's O'Reilly. And then here is the 5 big sporting goods. So they're right next to each other. So they have not gone here to this area. It says it's a hardware store. Big 5 is a sporting good store with those knives that I showed you. So they haven't gone to this side, it looks like. They stayed over here where the hardware stores are, but haven't gone to this area, because if they go to Tri-State Distributors, which is a hardware store, not a sporting goods store, that means they would have to go to Big 5 as well. And this is where Cole Barenberg worked for several years and stopped working there in December, which is after the massacre at 1122. I find that telling. I also looked up his information, his background information as well. I'm not quite ready to tell you what I found. I may do it in the part 3 when I go over part 2 again, because I want to look up a few more things first before I say anything, because a lot of congratulations to us, 2,100 subscribers, and I find that a lot of my subscribers are other channels, which is fine, it's great, and they definitely have brought some of their subscribers over, so welcome, and they do cite me, but I just want to make sure before I say anything else what I've learned about him. But I think that is a lot that I've given you so far, that the police have not looked for the Rambo style knife on the other side of the highway there. They didn't go to the Tri-State hardware store, which is not a sporting goods store, which means they kind of blended the two together, saying, yeah, they have not gone over there, which is the Big 5 sporting goods store, which is where he worked. And they have knives. Let me show you here. Hold on. Let me see here. Let's go to the website. So we'll do a fixed blade. And they have 29 items, and they have quite the selection. This will be considered, it has this side, I don't know much about knives, but this is smooth and this is not. Axe with black finish and wood handle. They have a variety here. So there's quite the selection, and he worked here per LinkedIn as well as his background check for a duration of time during the time of the massacre. So, moving on. Hailey King. And with her, August 31st, 2018, she got a speeding ticket in the work zone, which is a big no-no. And then on September 5th, they were filed, and on the 10th, it was closed. And she got into the car accident in that area that tends to be, from what I've learned from others who have commented, that it can be quite windy. And thank you, Bubbly, for the information. You can go and fast, like up to 80 miles per hour is the speed limit. So people are probably going 100 or at least 90. And that's an area where, accidents definitely could happen. But you never know. So here, she did have some inconsistencies with her background reports. And Bubbly did bring that up about the university. They had her going there while she was in high school. I checked that particular university. It does have high school type programs, but not for the duration of time her background is saying that she was there for. They have like summer programs, leadership programs at Shenandoah. It is a type of a religious type school, I want to say. That's the only thing, but I would have to look into her more before I go any further in bringing that information out. So Kaylee and Maddie both liked this post in regards to her passing. And we talked about how she has a picture here with 1122 in the background. And thank you to the person who showed the picture that she is in with Scott Green at the Corner Club, which I did not find. So now we're in part 2. So at 101. But with the intro, which I changed up a little bit. So I have not found any other deaths in 2021. Recall that was during COVID. That could have something to do with it, which is surprising because you think there would be more, considering I'm being funny here because people ended up having to live with each other and a lot of divorces happen in that regard. That's what I'm making a joke about. But what was not, and it was scary for a lot of us medical professionals, we were so worried about those, especially the children who had to be in homes that were violent, with domestic violence, and being in school is a safe place for them. And unfortunately, it's a fact that that's where many of them even get to eat breakfast and lunch, and that's their only meals because of the type of neglect they get. So, but what did happen in 2021, which someone or some of the comments have asked, which was Kaylee in finding the missing person. And this is from the Post. So here it was published January 24th, 2023. And, oh my gosh. Kaylee Goncalves was true crime fan who reported sightings of missing women to police year before murder. So Kaylee Goncalves was a true crime follower, which we learned that about her in the interview with Olivia. She followed her specifically on TikTok. And I guess they did also work together, it seemed like, as well, like with information-wise. I was a true crime follower who reported a possible sighting of a missing woman to police 1 year before her own death. Goncalves, 21, was stabbed to death in an off-campus home in Moscow, Idaho, in the early hours of November 13th, 2022. In the wake of their murder, the Goncalves family reached out to popular true crime vlogger Olivia, there you go, reporting about the aspiring elementary school teacher's passion for true crime. So, Kaylee was going to be an elementary school teacher at first, but then ended up veering in a different direction, which happens a lot of times with people who go to college. They think they want to be something, and then they realize when they start taking the curriculum, this is not what I want to do, and they pivot, which is very natural. So they talk to Olivia about Kaylee and reminisced about the aspiring elementary school teacher's passion for true crime. I started looking at the case that Kaylee was filing with you, and then I said, I'm going to reach out because maybe she can help resolve Kaylee's story. Devastated father Steve Goncalves told Vitale in an exclusive interview that aired this month. Kaylee wanted to help other families find this justice. In fact, 1 year before her death, Kaylee Goncalves was briefly involved in another local mystery. According to police file obtained by Fox News, Goncalves called the Moscow Police Department on October 5th, 2021, to report a possible sighting of a missing woman, Sharon Archer. Archer, 62, had been reported as endangered missing from Coeur d'Alene, Kaylee's hometown, the previous month. Kaylee told me the female was staring at her and her boyfriend when they were in the store, and as they checked out of Walmart, Sergeant Dustin Blaker wrote in his report of the incident, and he also is one of the investigators of this case. Sergeant Blaker noted that Goncalves thought she recognized Archer from a missing person poster, which she forwarded to him. Although police followed up on the call, they were unable to obtain surveillance footage to spot Archer or her Toyota SUV. Searches of nearby hotels also turned up nothing. Archer was found dead in her car, submerged in Fernan Lake later that month. The interaction was not Goncalves' last run-in with the police. In August 2022, just a few months before the killings, she was captured on body cam footage at the Moscow home after officers responded to a noise complaint at the address, which is not true. It was August 16th, 2022. They responded to a different house for a noise complaint, which they were playing loud music on King Road, and then they decided upon themselves to go to 1122 because apparently, miraculously, Rosendahl could see the big JBL all the way from 1127, which you can see from there, but that speaker wasn't outside. It was inside the house behind the sliding glass door. Sergeant Blaker subsequently became one of the lead investigators on the November 13th stabbings. Fox News reported that his affidavit was used to support the search warrant for suspect Brian Koberger's apartment and office in Pullman, Washington. And here it is. There's the big JBL. So he could see that. Officer Rosendahl from King Road. I don't think so. And then they talk about Koberger, the defendant. So there you go. That's about Ms. Archer. They found her submerged in a car in the lake. And that was a few months after she had reported her missing. Which means it probably was her there at the Walmart. And why weren't they able to get that information from Walmart is beyond. I don't know what Walmart's policies are, but it seems like whenever the police want to get any type, what the heck is this? I just noticed that there were some parents brawling. What in the world? So there you go on that. Some of you are asking about it, and it's intriguing that she finds a missing person. They end up dead shortly after, and a year later, Kaylee ends up as well. So a lot of mystery within this case. So next we'll get into Emma Mills. September 3rd, 1998 to January 1st, 2022. So she is the first person of the new year, unfortunately, and as of the first person of the many that we're going to see in 2022, which includes the 4 victims at 1122. So those 4 and her, that's 5 right there. So here we go. Just to do the order. So Katherine, 2018. Max Fulfer, 2019. Hailey King, 2022. No one in 2021. And Emma Mills, 2022. So here's Emma Mills' obituary. And the funeral home is in Meridian, Idaho. So, September 3rd, 1998 to January 1st, 2022, Boise, Idaho. Emma Suzanne Mills, and she also goes by Emily. 23 of Boise, Idaho, passed away on January 1st, 2022. Emma was born September 3rd, 1998, on the island of Majuro, the Republic of the Marshall Islands. She was adopted at birth by Holly Lloyd Mills and Scott Mills. Emma was initially raised in Lake Charles, Louisiana, where she grew up surrounded by a lot of love, close friends, and a horse. In 2005, Emma's family returned to Boise, Idaho, and she continued to grow, surrounded by her grandparents, the Lloyds, many aunts, uncles, and cousins, the Schaffners, and the Inmans. Emma found a personal relationship with God at an early age. She was baptized at Bishop Noland Episcopal Day School and attended Christian schools for most of her education. Reading and studying the Bible often set the tone for Emma's life, and she frequently referred to her favorite verses for guidance. Recently, she scouted through these verses to pick which prayers would be read at her grandfather's funeral. Additionally, she found God and joy in the outdoors, which she was obviously through her love of traveling, snowboarding, surfing, and boating with family and her many friends. She attended Coal Valley Christian for her elementary years, Heritage Middle School, Rocky Mountain High School for a year, and then 3 years at Bishop Kelly High School, where she graduated in 2017. Many students went to Rocky Mountain High School. We will talk about them throughout. I want to see, we've already have. Emma played elite level soccer for 10 years, where she played for the Boise Capitals as well as the FC Nova soccer clubs. She also played 4 years of varsity soccer at both Rocky Mountain and Bishop Kelly High Schools and won the 4A High School State Championship with her team at BK in 2016. In May 2020, she graduated from the University of Idaho, where she majored in sociology, minored in justice studies, and was a member of the Alpha Phi sorority. Emma planned to attend postgraduate school, which would allow her to accomplish her goal of starting her own adoption agency. She shined brightly when working with children and advocating for those in need. Emma's love for others was evident in all that she did. Emma is survived by her mother, Holly, and then talks about her aunts and uncles. And she's also survived by her Colorado family. She had beloved pets, King, Buddy, and Kelly. A funeral service will be held Saturday, January 8th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m. in Eagle, Idaho. A private family interment will be at Meridian Cemetery. In lieu of flowers, please make donations to your local adoption facility to help a child in need and change another child's life. And it has a webpage for her. And they're going to hold a memorial celebration of Emma's life in the summer of 2022. Announcement to follow on Facebook. So she had quite a life. She was very vibrant, very gifted, which seems to be the foundation of a lot of these victims. Full of life, vibrant, had many skill sets, and this happens to them. She also had a speeding ticket, which was December 3rd, 2021. The charges filed December 6th, 2021 for exceeding the maximum posted speed limit, and it was completed, or the court date was the 13th, which is 10 days later, which isn't bad. So here is the Alpha Phi post about Emma, and it's January 4th, 2022. So you see how quickly they put this information out, and she had graduated at the time. And this happened on January 1st. Our lives are changed forever. Emma Mills was beautiful, adventurous, spontaneous, compassionate, and a radiant soul. Hannah O'Leary describes Emma as somebody who always had a smile on her face. She was full of life and lived with laughter and love wherever she went. She was so accepting and a friend for everyone. Emma was someone who could make any situation better just by adding a little dance or positivity. She's someone who you would be captured by the light that shined through her. She was loyal to her friends, family, her bulldog, Zola, anyone. Which that name wasn't on there at the funeral one, or the obituary. Emma was my best friend. She was somebody who I would turn to for anything. She was there for me at my worst and best moments and never left my side. That is the definition of a true friend, and I'm so blessed I got to experience that kind of friendship with her. I'm going to miss her laugh, her jokes, her big smile, and who she was as a person. Emma left a huge impact on everyone she met. She will be forever missed and forever in our hearts. We love you forever, Angel. And both Kaylee and Xana liked this. So here is her Insta. It's private. Pacific Islander, Marshall Islands, U of I alum, 21, 1998, and she's followed by Kaylee because they're in the same sorority. Here is her LinkedIn, which doesn't have much on there at all. Not even that she went to the University of Idaho. And she does go by Emily Mills in her background check because there's no Emma Mills, which I find interesting because she is in a sorority and all the other sorority sisters have a basic LinkedIn. But the one of Emily Mills here, which is Knife River, she is a receptionist at, and Knife River is a huge construction company. And here is her Facebook. So at the time, she was working at Eagles Creative Preschool, University of Idaho, Bishop Kelly High School, Boise, Idaho, and she joined August of 2018 of Facebook. So here is Ava Wood. She is one of the two that I was talking about who had tragedy strike them before coming to the university. She is also a roommate of Emma. And this was posted January 3rd, 2022. So on November 12th, we're going back, 2018. This is Ava Wood, and she's got a 13 next to her name. Why? And her Insta is now private. So I got these before it became private. So make sure that no one contacts her Insta, please, because this is going to be a lot of information. So here she writes, my heart feels empty. I haven't been able to keep up these past couple of days and barely know what day it is. I know Jake and Blake wouldn't want us to be sad, so I think we have all done our best to keep our heads high for them. They both never fail to put a smile on anyone's face. Jake, everywhere he went, you would always have a Jake and Coke in your hand. You would always want to have a good time. Hashtag no bad times. Your main goal when we would go to the desert was to fuck shit up, but not bad enough to break your truck. Hold wide, Jake. Blake. Blake, you are the funniest person I know. No matter what the circumstances were, you would always seem to crack me up. You had such a big heart for everyone around you, and you always put others first. Blake, we love you. We love and miss you more than anything, but keep shredding in heaven. Thank you to our friends and family for coming together and remembering everyone's lives that has been lost. I'm so lucky to be a part of such a big family. Hashtag hit the rev limiter. So here's Ava. And we've talked about Ava a couple times throughout. I want to say we read one of her posts in regards to talking about Xana and Kaylee and Ethan, how much she misses them, so on and so forth, but she never mentioned Maddie. So, this is Thousand Oaks shooting, and this happened on November 7th, 2018. A mass shooting occurred in Thousand Oaks, California. Personally, I don't remember this. Some of you would, especially if you are from around this area. United States, at the Borderline Bar and Grill, a country western bar frequented by college students. 13 people were killed, including the perpetrator, who died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, which is which we learned with Gary Bucatto. That happens a lot. Those who commit a mass murder using a weapon of this sort, a gun, ends up doing a self-inflicted wound as well. And a police officer who was shot multiple times, with the fatal round accidentally being fired by another officer. So a friendly fire. So a lot's going on here. November 7th, 2018, a mass shooting occurred in Thousand Oaks, California, United States, at the Borderline Bar and Grill, a country western bar frequented by college students. 13 people were killed, including the perpetrator, who died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and a police officer who was shot multiple times, with the fatal round accidentally being fired by another officer. One other person sustained a gunshot wound, while 15 others were injured by incidental causes, which I want to say is probably by trampling. Police identified the killer as 28-year-old Ian David Long, a United States Marine Corps veteran. So here's some more military surrounding this case. Not directly, but in the periphery. So let me go to this. So the event. At 11:18 p.m., a gunman, later identified as Ian David Long, entered the Borderline Bar and Grill and opened fire on the approximately 260 patrons and employees inside. At the time, the bar was hosting a regularly scheduled college country night event, and it was popular among students in the area, especially those from Pepperdine University, California Lutheran University, California State University, Channel Islands, and Moorpark College. That's a lot of colleges. Long was armed with a legally purchased .45 caliber Glock 21 semi-automatic pistol with a Viridian XF5L tactical weapon, light, and laser sight. Goodness gracious. And 7 band high-capacity magazines, carrying a total of 190 rounds, along with a folding knife, 10 smoke bombs, and 2 fireworks. Upon entering through the bar's front door, Long first killed the cashier nearby, then started shooting at the patrons. He fired a total of 61 rounds and threw smoke bombs. Many of the victims died in the first few minutes of the shooting while they were lying on the floor or trying to charge at Long. Witnesses described the gunman as a heavily tattooed white male dressed entirely in black. Some people shattered the bar's windows, allowing many to flee, while some others hid in an employee bathroom or the attic. During the shooting, Long answered the phone call made by the mother of a patron who escaped, and he also made several posts on Instagram expressing his thoughts. At 11:19 p.m., 2 California Highway Patrol officers on a traffic stop nearby were alerted to the shooting by people who had managed to escape. They arrived at the bar's parking lot a minute later and were joined by Ventura County Sheriff Sergeant Ron Heelis 4 minutes after that. The 3 officers ventured towards the building, with Heelis and one of the CHP officers entering at 11:25 p.m. A minute later, they came under fire from Long, who had been monitoring their movements through the 9 security cameras visible on a monitor in the front office where he had been taking shelter. In the ensuing gunfight, Heelis was shot 5 times by Long, who used a flashlight with a laser sight on his pistol in the large, darkened, smoke-filled room. Positioned between Long and the CHP officer, Heelis was also accidentally struck by a bullet from the officer's rifle that went through his heart and fatally wounded him. Initially, there was confusion and miscommunication as to whether there was an officer down. Responding Ventura County Sheriff's deputies who were securing the perimeter located and evacuated Heelis outside the building 20 minutes after he had been shot. A SWAT team and other police officers arrived on the scene shortly afterwards. Long stopped his attack following the exchange of gunfire with police. At 11:37 p.m., he lit a firework and threw it out of the bar's front office. 40 seconds later, he threw another firework out of the office at 11:38 p.m. He committed suicide by shooting himself under the chin. Agents from the FBI, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and the Department of Homeland Security were deployed to further investigate the scene, along with EMTs and paramedics from the Ventura County Fire Department and AMR to assist victims. 19 survivors were rescued from inside the bar in total. So it talks about the victims. So 9 men and 3 women died during the shooting. 7 were college students, and 1 other a recent grad. The 4 others killed were 54-year-old Ventura County Sheriff Sergeant Ron Heelis, a 48-year-old bouncer, a 33-year-old Marine Corps veteran, and a 27-year-old Navy veteran who was at the 2017 Las Vegas shooting. Do you hear how wild this is? This is wild. During the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival, they all died from multiple gunshots, and 1 victim was also stabbed in the neck. 10 of the civilians died inside the bar, while the 11 died outside. 16 others were injured, with only 1 being injured by gunfire. According to the chief coroner, all of the fatal victims had suffered non-survivable wounds due to the gunman shooting the victims in vital areas, and thus none of them would have survived, even if immediate medical attention was available to them. So he knew how to shoot. He was almost sounds like a marksman of some sorts. So this is the perpetrator. Ventura County Sheriff Jeff Dean identified the gunman as 28-year-old Ian David Long. His gun was reportedly purchased legally. Long's parents separated and eventually divorced when he was 2 to 3 years old. His father died while he was still a child. According to a cousin, it was from cancer. He and his mother moved frequently due to her job, but they eventually settled in nearby Newbury Park. While he previously lived with roommates in Reseda, Long was living with his mother at the time of the shooting. Long's friends said he had been at the bar with them, and some considered him a regular patron. Long attended Newbury Park High School for his junior and senior years, graduating in June 2008. He served in the United States Marine Corps from August 2008 to March 2013, reaching the rank of corporal, and he had gone to Afghanistan from November 10th to June 11th. After being honorably discharged, Long attended California State University, Northridge as an athletic trainer major from 13 to 16, but he did not graduate. During this time, he had been involved in a motorcycle accident that left him with a collapsed lung. His motorcycle helmet was cracked, and he was diagnosed with adjustment disorder with mixed anxiety and depressed mood, PTSD, combat and military operational stress reaction, and chronic pain. According to his mother, he had begun to unravel after the incident. Long had 2 prior contacts with the Ventura County office, one in 2006 involving a traffic collision and the other in 2015 involving a bar fight. No charges were filed in either incident. Police and a mental health crisis team visited Long in 2017 for his irate and irrational behavior, but they decided not to detain him at a psychiatric facility. A high school teacher raised claims that Long had physically assaulted her as a student, but she was encouraged not to push the incident so as to not endanger his future in the Marine Corps. In her statement, the teacher alleged that Long had issues long before his military service. Although he had served overseas in the military, behavioral scientist and clinical psychologist Lisa Jaycox said that it was premature to say whether Long suffered from PTSD or if it was a factor in the shooting. So there is a lot to unpack there. And it sounds like we have these steps put in place so that we can help be proactive to prevent an escalation of this sort. Granted, you can't know the future and so on and so forth, but it sounds like he had problems in high school and that wasn't stopped. And remember the paper we talked about where it says, whoever you are in high school, you're going to be that person also in college or in the Marines or whatever, for whatever reason that I can think of, that people think that when you go into the military, it's going to straighten you out. And that's not necessarily true. And we're more complex in that nature. They like to say it's more complex than that. But when it comes to people tend to be more complex if they have issues. And it sounds like he had some growing up. We don't know all of the factors, but it does sound like he didn't have a stable home. It doesn't mean it's going to be a bad person, because a lot of people end up succeeding very well coming from an unstable home. But it all depends on how they're able to process that and what type of support they have when their home is unstable. So we have all of these interventions put in place to help prevent these escalations. And then it doesn't help when he has that motorcycle accident and his helmet was cracked, which means he probably got a traumatic brain injury, and that can scramble things up as well. So it's definitely a mixed bag. But going into the investigation, there sounds like a lot of dynamics are going on with this case, and just listening to the numbers, and let's just move on. So, investigation. A 434-page report from the Ventura County Sheriff's Office was released in June of 2021, which detailed the findings of the investigation into Long's actions and motivation. It concluded that Long had held a strong disdain for civilians and anyone not associated with any branch of the U.S. military, and that he had suffered from PTSD from his time in the military. However, the Ventura sheriff stated that the investigation did not show with absolute certainty that a hatred of college students was the motive. Instead, it was more a working theory. The report had been compiled with information from interviews with eyewitnesses, officers, and deputies, and family, friends, and acquaintances of Long, and was a joint effort by Ventura County Sheriff's detectives and FBI analysts. Investigators detailed several encounters that Long had with other students at California State University, Norwich, such as a time when another student told him that anyone who joined the military deserved to be shot and killed overseas. Oh my gosh. Potentially fueling his separation from and animosity towards other students. Oh my dogs are going buck wild today. My apologies. A separate 86-page report was released in March of 2021 by the Ventura County Sheriff with 30 recommendations for the Sheriff's Department to improve the response to mass shootings. Earlier in the year, similar findings had been released by the Ventura County District Attorney's Office. The aftermath. Within 24 hours of the shooting, the Woosley fire forced the evacuation of many people in the area, including several survivors. The mother of a victim who died in the Thousand Oak shooting after surviving the 2017 Las Vegas shooting called for gun control legislation from legislators. The only gun store in the town told reporters that there was an increase in individuals looking to purchase a weapon for protection on the day after the shooting. The Ventura County Board of Supervisors formed the Task Force on Mental Health and Safety in response to the shooting. Initially composed of key county officials, the ongoing task force looks for gaps in the systems that protect the public and that provide mental health care and makes recommendations on how to prevent and lessen the damage from mass shootings. Well, we do have them in place, but you weren't following them. Starting with the teacher in high school. You got to nip it in the bud. Nip it in the bud, not pass the buck. In 2019, the owners of Borderline Bar and Grill said they plan to renovate and reopen the location. In 2020, they opened a different location in Angora Hills, California called BL Dance Hall and Saloon. In 2022, the Ventura County Sheriff's Office released to its website multiple audio and video recordings from the shooting after being sued by the Star and other media organizations for access to the materials. In total, the county released all recordings of police radio communication, 94 emergency calls, security footage from inside the bar, and 14 dashboard and body camera videos from responding officers. So I did look on there. I have not looked at those yet because that's on the bottom of the list of many things that I have to do in regards to this case of 1122. So it talks about the memorials on November 15, 2018. And it talks about how local sports teams, churches, donated money to help with the victims. So let's see. California Governor Jerry Brown and Governor-elect Gavin Newsom, as well as local citizens, attended the funeral. And this is for the police officer, Helis. Vigil at Calvary Community Church in nearby Westlake Village for 2 of their congregation was attended by around 500 mourners. Numerous national sports teams highlighted the victims and donated money to those affected by the shooting. Victims were provided with these donations immediately after the shooting. Each victim's family was provided with $20,000 for burial cost. After a third distribution in March of 2019, a total of $3.6 million had been contributed by more than 25,000 people and through more than 200 fundraisers. The funds were distributed to the families of victims, those physically injured, and others present in the establishment. A local foundation received and distributed the funds in a cooperative effort without charging any administration fees. Okay, well, that's good. The Healing Garden Memorial at Conjo Creek Park was dedicated a year after the incident. In 2021, it was announced that 12 sculptures to represent the lives lost would be installed in the Civic Arts Plaza Park. So there is a lot to unpack there. And this is the Thousand Oaks shooting. And this is... Why does it keep doing that? The roommate of Emma Mills, and that is Ava Wood, who was roommates at the time with Emma Mills in the same sorority as Kaylee. And this is Ava Wood. So she has this happen to 2 of her friends, the Thousand Oaks shooting. Very tragic for anyone of that age to have to experience or have close friends experience that. And then goes to the university, has her roommate die tragically, granted post 1122. But for context, Ava comes to the university, and then 4 of those roommates are brutally murdered in a very tragic way, just like at the Thousand Oaks. So here's Ava Wood. This is August 6, 2018 at Westlake. Let the senior season begin. Here she is with Emma in 2019. So we're going to jump to Peyton. So Peyton is also Alpha Phi. And here she is December 11th, 2020. She's also part of the, looks like the ROTC program. And here she is on Alpha Phi's. And here she is on Kaylee's TikTok, October 30th, 2022.
Okay, let's rock this bitch. It's not my fault you're like in love with me. Okay, let's rock this bitch.
All right, let me turn this back around so we can watch it the right way.
Okay, let's rock this bitch. It's not my fault you're like in love with me or something. Oh! Do you know what everyone says about you? They say that you're a homeschooled jungle freak who's a less hot version of me. That is so fetch. You want to do something fun? You want to go to Taco Bell? You!
So that was Peyton. She was also at the grub truck the night of November 13th, 2022. She showed up shortly after Kaylee and Maddie showed up, and she was the one that Joe was kind of like looking for her outside of next to the grub truck, kind of like waiting for her. That was Peyton. And she ran up to her and hugged her.
Okay, let's...
So, this is Emma. Let me go to Peyton now, because she is further down here. So, Peyton Campbell. And this is her Insta. Excuse me, her Vasco. And with her Insta, I found in her tags, and this is August 17th, 2017. So glad I got to spend this camp with some of my favorite people, including the ones going to college and the ones I just met. You're all amazing, so important, so thanks for this week. Sydney Pants. And this is the Malibu Club, a Young Life Club. This is the same Jesus camp as the one that Bethany Funk went to, as well as Jasmine Kernodle goes to as well. I didn't see Xana go to it, but Jasmine does go to the same Malibu Club. There's many of them. They're just in different areas of the U.S. And Peyton is... Let me see if I could see her quickly. Oh, right here, right in front. Let me double check. No, that's not her. It says Peyton's right here. Oh, there she is. Looks a lot like her. Here she is right here on the side profile. What, is she pretending to choke her? What's going on here? So here she is with Taylor Burleson. Love you, Tay. August 18th, 2017 at the camp at the time. Here's August 7th of 2019. So 2 years in a row. Girls, you are courageous, you are worthy, you are fearless, you are enough, and as ridiculous how enough you are. You are loved by a love that is so unconditional, and that love will always be there. And this is from Malibu Club in Canada, saying this to the girls. As much truth I can speak into your life, it's only you that can take it in and believe it. Remember who your identity comes from and be proud of that. Best part of coming home is that I still get to continue doing life with each and every one of you. You each have a special place in my heart. Free, many, young life. Sorrel Grace. Now, that name sounds familiar. I want to say she's also a student at the University of Idaho. So here is Malibu Club, a Young Life camp. So the Young Life Club is a party with a purpose. It is a place for young people to be seen, have fun, and fellowship. Play games, sing songs, and perhaps hear about God's love and the person of Jesus Christ for the first time. And this Malibu camp is in British Columbia. So, there was a shooting at Peyton's school. I believe I have these out of order for some reason. Let me pause this for a second. So here you see, this is Peyton Campbell's Vasco, and this is August 17th, 2024. And here she's wearing 2 bracelets, Freeman Strong and Vandal Strong. So she had a school shooting happen, and we'll go through that right here. Freeman High School is a public high school north of Rockford, Washington, and 19 miles southwest of Spokane, Washington. It is a part of the adjacent 3-school Freeman School District facility that contains Freeman Elementary School, Freeman Middle School, and High School. So, the 2017 shooting. On September 3rd, 2017, a gunman opened fire at Freeman. The assailant, then 15-year-old sophomore Caleb Sharp, brought 2 guns, an AR-15 rifle and a Colt 1903 pistol, then shot and killed one student, Sam Strathen, who was attempting to prevent the shooting from taking place, in the torso and head. 3 other students were injured and taken to the hospital. Sharp pleaded guilty before his trial as an adult. In 2022, Sharp was sentenced to 40 years to life in prison. In September 2024, he was resentenced to 25 years to life due to a law banning people from being sentenced to over 25 years to life for crimes committed before they were 16 years old. So, that's a lot to take in, especially if you have a school shooting and then you go to the university and you have one of your sorority sisters ends up being stabbed to death. So here is the information I could find on the shooter. This is Caleb Sharp from Spokane. And suspect in school shooting said victim who died bullied him. And there he is. So those are the 2 students, Peyton and Ava, who have had the 2 very tragic events happen to them prior to even going to the university, getting to the university and having tragics happen. Not just including the 4, but we'll go into the other 2. So we'll go back to Emma. So here it is 2018, and Kaylee is not a part of this, but this is part of her group, Maya Bella, which we talked about with Bailey Miller, who is Jack DeCour's cousin. And here is Kimber Nelson, who is, I want to say it was Kaylee's great-grandma, Gigi. And here's Emma's Facebook in 2019, and there you see Kaylee. There's Bailey Miller. There's Taylor, Kaylee, Taylor Riley, or excuse me, Riley Woodland. Excuse me. My brain's it's crossing over. They're not firing correctly. That looks like Katie Kinson to me. And there's Maya Bella. There's Erica. Here's Emma. Or that's Katie Kinson right there. That's not. And there's Ava. This looks like Kaylee's big. Mila Janes. Riley Moreland. And I warm up my brain. And then here is Kaylee. So this is Parker Ward. There's a lot going on today. And here is Emma. So I'm just looking for more pictures of Emma because there wasn't much on her Facebook and her Insta is private. So this is Alpha Fees And here she is with Bailey. And this looks like McKenna to me. And we see McKenna in several pictures with Kaylee. And here is Emma for Idaho Alpha Phi. This weekend we got to add to our Alpha Phi families. We are so lucky to have the most perfect littles. And this is October of 2018. So Emma writes, our sisterhood couldn't have made this moment any more special than it was. AOE forever. And here is bid day, August 20th, 2019. And here is Emma. And here's her Facebook. So here she leaves the University of Idaho in 2021, which is COVID. So it looks like she had to graduate via Zoom, which it happened to a lot of graduates, which stinks. So here we have 23-year-old Boise woman dies in a New Year's Day snowmobile accident north of McCall. So this is January 2nd, 2022. Now this isn't working. Okay, so 23-year-old Boise woman dies in New Year's Day snowmobile accident north of McCall. So this happened Saturday north of McCall. About 4:10 p.m., the Idaho County Sheriff's Office received a call about the accident on Warren Wagon Road between Seiche Summit and Seiche Meadows, according to an Idaho County Sheriff's Office news release. Emma Mills died of her injuries and her family has been notified, according to the release. The caller said CPR was in progress after the incident. Valley County assisted by dispatching Air, St. Luke's, and McCall Fire and Rescue, the release stated. The Idaho County Sheriff's Office is continuing to investigate the accident. So, here is another. So this is Seiche Summit. So it's within this area. And that was really the only article I could find about the snowmobile accident. So let me catch my bearings here for a second. So there is one more that I found. So snowmobiling accident claims life of Boise woman. Investigation continues by the Idaho County Sheriff's Office on a New Year's Day snowmobiling accident that claimed the life of a Boise woman. Emma Mills, 23, died at the scene on the Warren Wagon Road. According to ICSO, dispatch received a call January 1st around 4:10 p.m. about a snowmobile accident between Seiche Summit and Seiche Meadows. The caller advised CPR was in progress. Due to the location, Valley County assisted by dispatching Air, St. Luke's, and McCall Fire and Rescue. Our deepest sympathies and prayers go out to her family and friends during the difficult time. So really not much to say. And that's the Idaho County Free Press. So looking at McCall, it does have a lot of snowmobile areas to go to, including the Seiche Summit, where she was at. And there is apparently a hot spring you can go to. So check out the 8.8 mile point-to-point trail near McCall, Idaho, generally considered a moderately challenging route. It takes an average of 3 hours and 9 minutes to complete. This trail is great for camping and hiking, and it's unlikely you'll encounter many other people while exploring. Mooses can be seen at the Moose Pond at Seach Summit and the meadow at Bergdorf. There is a hot spring at Bergdorf and old cabins for rent, as they advertise camping out indoors. There are USFS campgrounds in the area, but mostly only have outhouses, no water. The only electricity in the whole area is from privately owned generators. Cell phones don't work here either. So very remote. That's definitely for a select few of people who like to go out like that. And so this is the trail. So it tells you their grooming status here. And it's color-coded to show like how many days, 48 hours, 24 hours, 6 hours, and if it's ungroomed or if it's closed. As well as the trail network. So groomed snowmobile trail, infrequently groomed snowmobile trail, ungroomed snowmobile trail with the attractions. So let me just pause here for a sec, get my bearings. All right, we're back. So here is Idaho Trail Map, 2024 to 25. And here is Warren, Idaho County. Warren Ragan Road. And Seach Summit. So this is red, as you see. So greater than 7 days grooming status. So you go down, over. Furman Creek. And they mention about Bergdorf. If you go this way, there's Bergdorf. Come back to go down. And we'll get to Little Summit. And you go off this trail here, or keep going. So these are quite the trails. So Little Summit, and I want to say there's Sylvan Creek. There's a mountain. I'm just going to keep going down to Seach Summit. But you can understand why it would be difficult to get to anyone within these trails. And I did a couple run-throughs with this prior. I think we passed it. I don't know how you would not get lost with it. You definitely need someone with you to be able to, who has been through these trails before. So, just to give you an idea of the trails that are there. So let's get back to So what I found is you would think that there would be information on snowmobile accidents, fatalities, just so that safety and security reasons to no longer go on those trails or avoid these trails. So this happened in 2022, and it says here there was no fatalities, which hers did happen in 2022. So they have here in 2020 to 21, one snowmobiler caught and killed. You can watch the video for site investigation. And this is sawtoothavalanche.com, avalanche accident reports for the state of Idaho. In 2019 to 2020, Baker Creek, one snowmobile caught, buried, and killed. And Canal Street, 2 skiers caught, 1 buried and killed. So no fatalities in these other years. I'm surprised they don't have anything here, because that is when Emma Mills passed at the Warren Ward's Siege Summit area. And here is the website of that. And it has avalanche accident reports and no fatalities. Idaho. It is in a different area, but this is the only, let's see here. So this is where we were just at, the Sawtooth Avalanche Center. Okay, we're back. I apologize for that little mix-up. So this is Warren Reagan Road, Valley County Road. So this is where the trail series, and beautiful area, leaves McCall and winds along Payette Lake. No traffic, buttery smooth. So just past the lake road is closed. This is where the winter maintenance ends, and the snowmobile parking lots provide access to the mountains in the winter. So these will be, and here is miles to the summit. And then they'll plow for Memorial Day weekend. And then here's a better look at the Warren Reagan Road. Okay. And when you look it up specifically, Warren Wagon Road and Search Summit, mentioned in news reports about snowmobile accidents in Idaho, are located in Idaho County, Idaho, north of McCall, specifically near the Siege Stage Stop and Siege Meadows. Multiple accidents have occurred on this road and in the surrounding area, highlighting the risk associated with snowmobiling in this region. The Warren Wagon Road is a popular snowmobile trail, and the Siege Stage Stop is a well-known destination for riders. And then here you see about the New Year's Day of Emma Mills, the two that we read. So it's known to have a lot of accidents there and in the surrounding areas in that region. So it sounds like it's not a safe place to go. So we don't know how much of an avid snowmobiler she is. We did learn through the obituary that she was very athletic, so it's not something unusual for her to do, as well as, we'll go back to the obituary, which I have. Where did I put it? But when we look back at her obituary, she found God and joy in the outdoors, which was obvious through her love of traveling, snowboarding, surfing, and boating. So it doesn't specifically say snowmobiling, but she did snowboard, but that is definitely different than snowmobiling. On these trails that we just read tend to have many accidents because of the type of trail that it is. So it's very unfortunate that happens to another great student, full of love, full of life, very athletic. And here, while it's difficult to pinpoint the exact number of snowmobile fatalities in Idaho annually, avalanche-related incidents are a significant factor in snowmobile deaths. In the winter of 2018 and 19, Idaho reported one snowmobile avalanche fatality, and in 2021 to 2022 season, there were 13 fatalities, with 7 potentially related to drugs or alcohol. A 5 square mile area in a specific region of Idaho has been 14 snowmobile fatalities in the past 15 years. Additionally, avalanche-related incidents have claimed multiple lives, with 2 snowmobilers killed in avalanches in separate incidences in Ohio, Idaho, and Washington during a recent multi-day blizzard. So, the one thing about the great outdoors is it's amazing and definitely entertaining, but, safety first. I would like for them to specify more of the 5 square mile, Fox News. So this is more related to that specific area that had not the fatalities. So that wouldn't be on here. So you can disregard me saying that altogether. I want to say that when I was looking this up, that all that information with Warren was not coming through. So when I look again today, stuff starts popping up. So my apologies on that. So that's all I have on Emma at this point. So far we've had Katherine Groggett, 2018, Max, 2019, Hailey, 2020, and Emma, January 1st, 2022. So 1, 2, 3, 4 so far. Richard is later on in 2022. So there's 4 deaths, 1, 2, 3, 4, up to January of 2022 from September of 2018. So now we have Hannah Cleary. Now Hannah Cleary is quite controversial. There's a lot of controversy surrounding Hannah Cleary. If you were paying attention to this case in the beginning, a lot of people were associating Hannah with Maddie, saying that there was a time where Maddie and Hannah were initially roommates at one point, and that she was bullied by Maddie. This is what is alleged. I'm not able to find any information that Maddie was roommates with Hannah at the time. I'm going to say it could be a possibility their freshman year, before Maddie became a member of Pi Phi. I want to say it would have to be the very first semester. The fall semester and then spring semester is different because she is going to be staying at the house, if I'm correct in how they do their rooming situation when it comes to becoming part of Greek life. Because there's not many photos of her dorm room prior to being in the home. You can see definitely she's in a dorm-like scenario, but it's within the home of Pi-Phi, the way the rooms are divided up. So I don't have any information on Hannah. Like, her Insta is also private. There's not much on her Facebook. So there's not really many pictures or information to show or connect that they were roommates at any time. Not saying they weren't, but I don't have any information on that. So here, Hannah was born November 15th, 2000, and passed away on February 24th, 2022, at the age of 21. So Emma Mills was January 1st, and then a month later, Hannah Mills. So, I had a thought there. So nothing in 2021. And Emma was graduated from the school at the time when that happened. So the last person who was at the school as a student was 2020 was Hailey King. Nothing in 2021. And then the next student was Hannah Cleary in 2022 of February. So just a quick look about suicide rates. Because I wanted to see like what was specific for Idaho. Do they have more than the average amount? But first, looking at here through the CDC, there was a dip past 2020 and slowly started rising in 2022. And remember, COVID is during this time. So here it says they increased at 37% between 2000 and 2018, decreased 5% between 2018 and 2022, but then started to peak back up in 2022. So here is her obituary. She has a page. And here is some more statistics through AFSP. It's the 11th leading cause of death in the U.S. In 2022, 49,476 Americans died by suicide. In 2022, there were an estimated 1.6 million suicide attempts. And for the U.S., the age-adjusted suicide rate in 2022 was 14.21 per 100,000 individuals. In 2022, men died by suicide 3.85 times more than women. White males accounted for 68.46% of suicide deaths in 2022. And in 2022, firearms accounted for 54.64% of suicide deaths, which makes sense because males tend to commit suicide by firearms. And 94% of adults surveyed in the U.S. think suicide can be prevented. Because there are definitely notes that lead up to it. It's not something that just happens suddenly. There's definitely signs and symptoms before someone does this. And I believe we've all been taught this through school. At least I hope. At least we did when I was in high school. You know, they do certain actions. They start giving away their valuables to their friends and family, saying, hey, you know, this is, you know, my guitar. I want you to have it because of X, Y, and Z. And so they do that. They do something drastic. For example, if they've always had a messy room, they kind of were just like a messy type person, and all of a sudden they just clean everything in their room and it's all perfectly aligned. And then they do that because they want to leave themselves a certain way when they leave. Another thing is if they're depressed all the time and all of a sudden they're happy and excited and they have a great mood, then that is another action. And there's other ones as well. And it all depends on the person in particular. We're not talking about, if they're already diagnosed with something, that's something totally different. These are certain actions that they do prior to committing suicide. Or if they're generally a level-headed person and then all of a sudden everything's great, everything's fine, everything's amazing, and then that happens. So there are signs and symptoms of someone who is going to do that. It's very rarely is it something that's all of a sudden they just do it. So here, UI English student passes away. A junior English student from Provo died over the weekend. So let me find the actual article. But before we go to Hannah's obituary, this is what I was talking about with which state does Idaho have more than other average states. And they're saying, this article says yes, in the Midwest there are more suicide rates, and some of that could be just isolation because of the rural areas or the lack of available resources. So here we have Arizona, and this is in 2024 though, not 2022. 1,603, California 4,312, Colorado 1,293. Florida has a lot, Georgia and Idaho 444. Indiana, Michigan, Missouri, New York, and North Carolina. So here is the Argonaut. The UI English student passes away. A University of Idaho student passed away this weekend, according to an email from the Dean of Students, Blaine Eccles, earlier today. Hannah Cleary, originally from Provo, Utah, died in Moscow over the weekend. A junior at UI, Cleary studied English literature. As a community, we collectively mourn the loss of Hannah and share our sincere condolences with her family and friends who are most impacted by her passing, Eccles stated in the email. So you can go to the counseling center, and so here's 3 replies. It says elsewhere that she died of a sleeping medication overdose. This article is ridiculous. Where are the details? You're awful at your job. And what did she die from? So you have students questioning. And these, December 11th, 2022, December 8th of 2022, and March 3rd of 2022. So many upset about how they handled about her death. And here is her page that I've shown, which is nicely done. It has her pictures here of her life throughout the years. Here she is. So here is the start of some of that controversy. So this is December 6th of 2022, updated on the 8th. So here, a rumor. A student was found dead under suspicious circumstances back in February. The death of Hannah Cleary was confirmed to have been an overdose by the MPD. On Twitter, Cleary's father said he has seen the autopsy and toxicology report showing that she overdosed on over-the-counter sleep medication. There was no evidence of foul play. Please respect my daughter's memory. Scott, Cleary tweeted. Now, I looked up the incidences of committing suicide on over-the-counter sleep aids. Granted, yes, most females do this by poison. So I looked it up, and melatonin. Between 2012 and 2021, the number of reported pediatric melatonin ingestions increased significantly, with a total of 435 ingestions reported. Out of these, 4,555, that's 1.6%, resulted in more serious outcomes, including hospitalizations. Sadly, 2 deaths occurred in children under the age of 2 associated with melatonin ingestion. Now, you're not supposed to give children any type of sleep aid whatsoever. It's considered a hypnotic in the medical field of giving any, and they say child, 18 and under, a sleep aid, because it really messes with their circadian rhythm. And once you start messing with your circadian rhythm, you're going to mess with your everything, mental, body, the whole shebang. So it's considered a hypnotic for that reason, because it can really mess with your brain. Your brain has to learn how to sleep and wake up on its own. And I've worked in the youth residential facility, and they can have it past the age of 16, but we need a consent by a family member. The preferred is 18, but they do allow 16-year-olds to take melatonin, and it's very low doses. So antihistamines, over-the-counter sleep aids containing antihistamines such as diphenhydramine, which is like Benadryl, Tylenol PM, Nitol, Somanex, and ZZZ-Quil, and doxylamine succinate, found in Unisum sleep tabs, can lead to serious side effects if taken in excessive amounts. These side effects can include hallucinations, severe drowsiness, difficulty urinating, seizures, and irregular heartbeat. While an antihistamine overdose alone may be less likely to be fatal compared to other substances, the risk increases when combined with alcohol, opioids, or other medications. So far, melatonin and antihistamines are not going to be cutting it to commit suicide with Hannah Cleary at her age, and she was 21 at the time. So during 2019-2020, among drug overdoses deaths, 3,345 were antihistamine involved, with nearly all of these deaths involving first-generation H1 antihistamines, primarily diphenhydramine, which is Benadryl, Tylenol PM, what we just mentioned. Only 90 of these deaths involved antihistamines as the sole drug, suggesting they were often involved in overdose deaths when combined with other substances, particularly opioids. So, there you go. So, unless there was another drug involved on top of it, and they just did not put that on there, I did try to get information about her and her information through a FOIA request and was denied. I found a specific website that tells you how to write it specifically, so they would have to give it to you, but I ended up being denied. I'm going to try again. So here are some clips that I took off of Facebook in regards to the controversy surrounding Hannah's death. So we have Karen DiStefano, Heartland. I concur with Patch Adams' theory. Loach took out Ethan and Xana and had the motive after that evening. And Scott Cleary Jr., driving his white Sonata at the scene, wanted revenge after his sister Hannah was murdered. He vowed he was going to take out Hailey for outing his sister's sexuality and bullying Hannah about her weight. So I've heard about Maddie prior, and this one says Kaylee. And same thing with Kaylee. We don't know much about who they roomed with or their dorm situation in their initial freshman year. Most colleges that I know of where you sign up to go in, they ask you, do you have a preferred person to room with? And they more than likely put each other, I would assume, unless it was some lottery some lottery of some sorts. But I have a hard time believing that, especially in 2019 when they went to school. Back in my day, they asked you, and they worked their damnedest to do it, but if you preferred someone, they want someone to be with you that you know, so that you would adjust more quickly than someone who just goes in and doesn't know anyone and has to learn how to make friends and get acclimated to the area. So I would assume they room together, but we don't have any of that information. And for Kaylee to out her sexuality and bullying Hannah about her weight, which I find difficult to see Kaylee doing that, but we don't know her personally. I mean, Kaylee was conscious of her weight as well, but I mean, you never know. This was the conversation that was talked about at the grub truck and why Showalter told Maddie they were coming after her. I mean, that's a possibility. These are facts. Patch Adams is also Hannah's half-sister and learned the truth of the matter. I tend to not to believe this scenario, but I could be totally wrong. And this is from the Facebook of Idaho 4 Murder Case Updates and Discussions by Patch R.J. Adams. This is January 15th. Hannah Cleary did not overdose. You cannot overdose on 40 milligrams of generic OTC sleep aid medication. Each gel cap in the bottle was 50 milligrams. 40 is less than 50. My butt falsified the toxicology. Hannah's piece of shit excuse of a father lied. I have her MPD papers. Stop spreading bad information. I do recall reading some information about this. I cannot find any information on this, but this can always change for like part 3. I'm going to look a little bit more closely. But I'm surprised that my butt actually did a toxicology, but considering the case, they may have had to, but she didn't do toxicology on the 4, which it sounds like she didn't. She said there's nothing to be on there that's going to be concerning. So I don't know if that's her way of saying don't look at it or we're not going to do it. There were people showing on other videos on YouTube that they had the toxicology report, which I was surprised to see that on there because that borderlines HIPAA. I don't know about postmortem, but that's very specific lab results. That seems to me that would be a HIPAA violation depending on the scenario. I'm not sure about that, but I'm thinking HIPAA more than anything. So now we have Hudson Lindow. So that's all I have on Hannah at this time. It's not that much. There is a lot more. I'm just doing the basics of each person up to this point of Emma, like I did in part 1. So many people were saying that was a revenge because of what Kaylee was her roommate. I also heard Maddie, but here we have in writing that it was Kaylee per Karen. But still, I need more other sources specifying that. I know that because they were in a sorority, that people automatically assume that they would be that way towards her, which I can definitely see that. But because of what happened to Kaylee and Maddie, tells me that they were not like that they were against the grain and treating people like that, which could be why, not exactly for that reason, but an escalation of, and they ended up getting out of the sorority. Were they asked to leave because they were such bitches and they were just so controlling and they were like the mad women, the main head bitches that everyone couldn't stand them? I don't think so. Especially in those type of scenarios, it sounds like that type of bad behavior is rewarded. So I have a hard time believing that, but I am willing to be open wherever the information takes me. So in part 3, I will do more. So next is Hudson Lindow. Let me go back. February 13th, 2003 to April 30th, 2022. So we have September 14th, 2018, Katherine. Then March 25th, 2019. August 28th, 2020. January 1st, 2022. And February 24th, 2022. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Out of all those I just mentioned, one is not in a fraternity or a sorority. I don't see any information that she was part of one. Her Insta is private. There's not much on her Facebook. So here is Hudson Lindow's obituary. So here's Hudson, and we have covered him a few times throughout these videos. So he was born February 13th, 2003 to April 30th, 2022. Boise, Idaho. Hudson R. Lindow was truly one of a kind. Born in Boise, Idaho on February 13th, 2003 to Kim and Clint Lindow. Hudson was a 2021 graduate of Timberland High School. Hudson was a friend and a helper to all, whose love and friendship brought people together from all walks of life. People were drawn to Hudson's personality. At home, he grounded each household with infectious goofiness. So, for whatever reason, this stopped, and I just kept talking and didn't even know that it stopped. So, that's why I said infectious goofiness, and then I wanted to put that part in. So, his personality philosophy was to live in the moment and be a better person every day. Hudson's empathy was legendary. He was quick with a smile and a kind word. Hudson passed away on Saturday, April 30th, 2022 on the University of Idaho campus in Moscow, Idaho, where he studied environmental science. His passing at the aptly named Paradise Creek is an enduring reminder of the gift Hudson was to the world. Hudson leaves behind scores of broken-hearted friends, many of whom had held impromptu vigils in his honor, both in Boise and Moscow. Friends and family who have attended these gatherings each carry a unique and personal connection with him. Hudson's gift of expressing love came in many forms, from a genuine hug to a smile or even a reassuring look from across the room. Hudson looked forward to traveling the world and experiencing many cultures. He was always enjoying spending time with his best friend and roommate Kaye, who taught him Korean life through his country's language and cuisine while preparing to visit Korea together. He recently traveled to the Pacific Ocean with friends and was always at peace near the water. Hudson especially enjoyed time with family. He loved family events where the entire extended family was spent. Hudson was an incredible big brother. He shared an extremely close bond with his sister Ava and was adored by his youngest sister Remy, who loved his silly personality. He was an avid skier and enjoyed close times with his dad, Eva, and friends on the slopes. His near daily calls with his mom spoke of the love they shared. Hudson is survived by his parents, Kim and Meryl. So I'm going to go through all the names. A celebration of life will be held on Saturday, June 4th, 2022 at 1 p.m. Eastwind Community Church. And memorials may be made in Hudson's honor to Special Olympics, Idaho. Okay, so here's body pulled from Paradise Creek, identified cause of death determined. This is May 3rd, 2022. So the toxicology report will not be processed for another 2 to 3 weeks, and then it was updated the 3rd at 7:30 p.m. Moscow police say a body in Paradise Creek was found on Sunday, May 1st, around 11 a.m. 11:58. In an incident broken by Pullman Radio and confirmed by new reporter John Webb. Why does that sound familiar? James Fry stated the body was pulled from the creek several yards north of College Street. No details regarding the body's identity have been released at this time. Investigations are underway, but no cause of death has been determined. If you have any information, give us the tips. They love the tips. So this information is from Bullhorn Betty. Many people have mixed feelings about her. She's quite controversial. But I'm just going to tell you what she says here. It seems like she has, I don't know if she's from that area, but I've seen videos of her around that area at the time of the case of the 4 that were massacred. So here she says, I have a question. Moscow LE has been running with this whole nothing like this has ever happened here narrative. And she's talking about the Idaho 4. So does anyone care to explain this? U of I student Hudson Lindow was found dead in Paradise Creek on May 1st, 2022. So context on 4/30/2022, the night before, Delta Tau Delta held its 90th annual ball. Xana, Maddie, Jack, and I want to say that's Jack Showalter were all in attendance. I don't know how she knows that, but Hudson's body was found the next morning in the creek, right outside Greek Road. Hudson's death was ruled an accidental drowning. Could mean literally nothing. But also, here's a picture of Hudson outside the girl's house, which we have covered before, and a map to see where the body was found. One of Hudson's friends, which is blurred out, which is the president, and the same frat Jack Showalter was supposedly kicked out of. And riddle me this. Where are all the stories on the investigation? Police immediately said there was no foul play upon finding his body. How? What led him up in the creek the night? So, here is Paradise Creek. It's pretty large. And as you see, it's green, which tells me there's not much water. This to me is a creek that is mostly of when it rains too much or when the snow starts melting, then you see a running body of water. But as for a current stream of water through there, I have a hard time seeing that. So here is Delta Tau Delta. You go straight down here, Idaho have down College Street, like I mentioned in that article, and then there's Paradise Creek back here. And here is many of the fraternities and sororities: Pi Beta Phi, Sigma Nu, Delta Gamma. Here is Elm Street, which, if you keep going further, Alpha Phi is on there. And just to show you how far Paradise Creek is. Also, fun fact, there's a Paradise Creek in Pennsylvania, but it's nowhere near where Kohlberger's parents' house is. And here is just more about Paradise Creek. So here on May 1st, this is on the Insta of Delt, Idaho Delt. Babushka. The 90th annual ball was a success. We couldn't have had more fun with all our amazing dates. We also want to congratulate our new Tizina. We can't wait for this upcoming year. We also would love to recognize our past two for the amazing memories they have given us. And one of them is Ashlyn Couch. Rah rah, which we've seen Zana say that on Insta. And then here's Ashlyn Couch. Love you all. Purple and yellow. So here's the president right here. And we talked about him, and his girlfriend went to high school with Hudson. So this is 2021 to 2022 executive board. And I have looked through this, and I have not seen Jack Showalter on there. So, but you know what? I'll look again. Who also is a Delt is Lake Campbell. He is a townie, and he is spoken about a lot in this case. Apparently he has ties with Emma Bailey, who is also a townie as well. Xana and Maddie both like this post. And Jake, her boyfriend, is also a Delt. And this is July 16th, 2021. Who else is a Delt? Brad Little, the governor. And this is January 5th, 2019. And he still is the governor to this day, I want to say. Definitely was at the time of the massacre of the Four. And he was the one that mentioned this was a crime of passion. So congratulations to Brad Little for being inaugurated as Idaho's 33rd governor yesterday. The governor is one of Idaho's Alpha's most famous alumni here in Idaho. We can't wait to see you represent all of Idaho and our shared values. So there is some controversy on this. People are not happy that he was elected. But to talk about power and control and the amount of influence these fraternities have, this is a different fraternity, LMK, and this is May 29th of 2023. A son of the South, Luton came to the University of Idaho to play football in the late 70s. He joined the LMK Alpha fraternity, served on the Student Recreation Board, and worked as a graduate assistant football coach. During a very busy weekend, he married his college sweetheart, Margaret Peggy, in 82. In 83, on a Friday, commissioned in the Army the next morning and graduated later that Saturday afternoon with a bachelor's degree in general studies. Although Luton left the military in 1994, he was called back into service 2 years later during the Bosnia conflict to serve as head of U.S. NATO Human Intelligence Operations in Sarajevo and Special Operations Intelligence in Bosnia and surrounding countries. After Bosnia, he worked for Electronic Warfare Associates, designing robots and spectral analysis systems, and was called back into service again for Y2K and following the September 11th attack on the U.S. He has received multiple military awards and decorations during his career. Luton's interest in international service has never waned. In April of 2022, he returned from a humanitarian mission in Ukraine, started Humanitarian Express, a nonprofit organization focused on solving some of the problems in Ukraine, especially European custom delays in supply delivery. The organization also supports the overall humanitarian coordination effort in Ukraine. He knew with a little cooperation from the United Nations and the State Department and the use of new technologies, Humanitarian Express could turn resupply from 30 to 60-day adventure into a 3 to 4-day operation. What in the heck? Randy Luton epitomizes the intelligence, initiative, grit, and spirit of a true vandal, and he's a perfect candidate for the Hall of Fame. So there you go. Just the amount of power and control that is surrounding these fraternities and sororities. And here's LMK, wins 20 to nada. This is in March of 25th of 2024. And I just brought this up because look what they're wearing. It's not a ski mask. It's something like it. Not saying that they have anything to do with it, but I have a feeling that this is not the first time they're wearing them. But after learning about what happened at the Idaho 4, this is 2024, it just surprises me. And this is the WSU student. And he does end up passing away. This is November 26, 2019. He was in a major car accident of LMK, and I just wanted to bring up this information because the fraternity he's associated with has all these great ties and all this power and influence, and you have Mr. Luton there being so efficient and effective. Then why do these family members have to ask for help for any type of assistance? Granted, it's WSU, but it's a chapter of LMK. So he got hit by a car traveling south to Southern California for Thanksgiving. And he's currently comatose. And he's had several surgeries, and he suffered 2 strokes during that time. And he's 19. Kyle Osborne. So now here's another fraternity that I've been looking into, and this is a different delt. This is Phi Delt. And this is the fraternity Hunter is in. This is June 8th, 2021, which is Kaylee's birthday. Hi, everyone. Fall recruitment is coming up soon. Thinking about joining Phi Delta, Theta? Feel free to reach out. And there's Hunter here. Now, this is February 28th, 2022. And this is Hunter Johnson. And it says here, this week's Senior Spotlight features Hunter Johnson. Hunter is majoring in athletic training. He has been our homecoming chair as well as our intramural chair. When not focusing on school, Hunter loves to win intramurals for the house. After college, he hopes to become an athletic trainer for a professional NBA or NFL team. We wish you best, Hunter. So that means it's February, March, April, May, June. So he should be done with school. He's a senior and he is going to be graduating. We wish you best, Hunter. Bye. Congrats. Here he is in March on their spring break. So then why is he here in the summer? It's August, okay? So he graduates in May. And now it's August, and here he is at the body cam. You can see him in the body cam on August 16th. And when you watch, you know, when Kaylee walks out, she didn't keep the door open for him. She starts closing it, and he stops it from closing. He comes out and sits in the couch and sits there for a little bit, but then leaves. And then we see him again in September 1st. So he graduated in May, but here he is still. When you're a senior, you start your senior year in September, not in spring semester. Am I right? So, now I'm looking at the timeline here. So, this happened the 12th. The hit and run homicide interrupted WSU family weekend. Let me just pause this for a second to see where I'm going. So that's all I wanted to bring up with Hunter and that fraternity. You have Hunter there. It's past his senior year, and he's at 1122 before, which I mentioned this before in another video. He's there before the massacre happens, and he's there after the massacre happens. He also does the celebration of life, and he doesn't talk very highly of Ethan, in my opinion. He dogs him, which I find very strange. That whole celebration of life was very strange to me. Some of it was genuine, and others it was like they were bashing them. Maybe we'll do a video on that. Or now maybe someone else will, because I've said it. So, here he is. And now I'm going to go into, this is the extra, up to the deaths of the 4. So on the 12th, there was a hit and run homicide interrupted WSU family weekend. And this is from the Daily Evergreen, which is in, I want to say it's in Oregon. And the Daily Evergreen is also, I want to say where Enon Harsh, is that his last name, Harsh, went to college as well. So here, hit and run, homicide interrupt, WSU family weekend. The homicide is non-threatening to the community. So hit and run, homicide. Well, the homicide happened next door, happened in Moscow, Idaho. So November 13th, 2022, a homicide in the Moscow-Pullman area and a one hit and run happened within 24 hours this weekend. It happened to 2 people that got hit by that hit and run. The Moscow Police Department is still investigating the death of 4 people near the University of Idaho campus, but there is no threat to the community, according to the alert sent to UI students at 5:17 p.m. The homicide occurred around noon on Sunday in Moscow, south of the University of Idaho campus, with the initial call coming from the home on King Road, according to Spokesman Review article. So this is the Daily Green. An alert was sent out to the University of Idaho. Excuse me, I stopped. I'm just all thrown off by this article about the information. There are no suspects as of Sunday, according to the article. Police started canvassing the neighborhood Sunday afternoon. An alert was sent out to the University of Idaho students, advising them to stay inside at 1:04 p.m. A text alert was also sent to WSU students at 3:30 p.m., followed by an email notifying them of the homicides. The alert stated there is no threat to the Pullman community. At 11:30 Saturday at the Grove, 11:30 p.m. Saturday at the Grove, a WSU student hit 2 pedestrians after driving under the influence of alcohol, and she fled the scene, said Pullman Police Sergeant Todd Dow. Carmen E. Fernandez, 19, hit a male and a female as well as a fire hydrant, according to the Big Country News article. She was arrested for felony vehicular assault, hit and run, and DUI. Her alleged blood alcohol level was also double the legal limit, which I don't believe, because if you watch that video, she does not look that intoxicated, or speaking that intoxicated, not walking that intoxicated, or she was able to stand still and answer questions. I don't think she is a functioning alcoholic where she can have double the limit and still be able to function status quo. Dow said Fernandez's car was found on Greek Row at the Kappa Alpha Theta house, and she was found inside. She is now in Whitman County Jail. Fernandez will have to appear in court for the decision on if she will be released or holding her pending trial. Her first appearance will likely be Monday. The pedestrians involved were sent to Pullman Regional Hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. So I just wanted to I brought that article in for more than the numbers. So when you look at this video, on 11/13/2022, it happened at 11:30 p.m. on the 12th. We're now into the 13th. And this person looks a lot like Kopaka. And this is his Facebook. I just checked it recently, and this was his profile picture, September 20th, 2016. And this is the whole picture. And then the 4 happened. So it looks like he was in the area, and this is T0850, 11/13/22. And this is a different type of time, which I'm not quite sure how to read it. It's not military, and it's not the standard. But this was definitely later in the evening, as well as the fire hydrant that was busted, that was in front of Brian Koberger's apartment. And there were police there for all of the night and into the early morning, I want to say, because of that fire hydrant. It was draining so much water. We have covered that a little. If you want me to cover that more, let me know in the comments. I'm not going in that direction so far because of Linda Lane and the grub truck, but it may be brought up in the future. So we have the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 11 deaths that happen between 2018, starting with Katherine, to 2022, which is Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogan, Kaylee Goncalves, and Xana Cornodo. 11 deaths of the University of Idaho students. Those 4 happened on campus, as well as Hudson and Hannah. So those are 6 of them. A questionable one is Max. His is still more mysterious. I want to say more mysterious. More mysterious in that we don't even know his date of birth. And it looks like the fraternity itself is, if you're not posting on your Insta page about the death of one of your brothers, that's a red flag to me. Hailey and Katherine were both car accidents. Emma is a snowmobile accident. These 2, Big and Little, were both suicide. Hannah's death is definitely questionable, just in the over-the-counter sleep aids. And as a medical professional, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying it whatsoever. And then there's the 4. And here someone, I can't remember where I found this, but the ICU2. And this was December 6th of 2022. And people say you can see items in here. I'm not quite sure about that. It's a possibility. So here is the Phi Delts, which is Hunter's fraternity. And here he is, a sword. This is February 16th, 2023. And I'm sure it's because of, this is their crest. Phi Delta Theta. So in 2023, July 24th, 2023, Raymond Scott Fryberger, who is a Phi Delt, which is Hunter's fraternity. It is with sadness that we announce the loss of our brother, Raymond Fryberger. Ray was studying business finance as part of our 2023 pledge class and was set to graduate before the end of the year. He will be missed by his brothers and all of the others who had the opportunity to feel his love. Ray was truly the perfect example of what it means to be a Phi. In Coley, I'm not even going to try to say that. So here's another pic of him. So here's his obituary. Raymond Scott. Is it a full moon? So to view the funeral service, click here. 19 years old, Paul passed away Monday, July 24th, 2023. So when did Richard? He was July. My brain is starting to spin. Richard was July 15th. So Monday, July 24th, 2023, Raymond was welcomed into a house full of older sisters on December 23rd, 2003. Years later, in order to get through an adolescent roughhouse need, he was blessed with a bonus brother, family friend, twin B, John. Ray loved others and went out of his way to make their day special. He often stopped by former schools just to drop off a favorite drink for his mom and other teacher friends. Ray was both fun and competitive. He and his dad played a mean game of cornhole, coming away victorious in 3 consecutive annual tournaments at his favorite 4th of July hangout events with the Bruins clan. He earned numerous cowboy shooting awards, a hobby he enjoyed throughout his middle school years. Though he excelled in both, Ray mostly enjoyed the camaraderie with the influencers of each, Uncle Tom with cornhole and Uncle John and Aunt Joni with cowboy shooting. Ray was a fierce card player and enjoyed any chance to show off his skills, no matter the game. As for his genetic enjoyment of gambling, though he didn't receive the same luck at his gram, he was always willing to gamble for the win. Ray was blessed to have many friends and family who enjoyed spending time together. From family reunions to hunting trips to watching movies, laughter found Ray at whatever event he was participating in. He loved teasing others, especially enjoyed spending time with his nephew, Beckham. From the time Ray was little, he enjoyed thinking deeply as well as creatively. He found peace and joy in constructing Lego projects, just recently completing a giant model of the Titanic. His ability to think deeply enabled Raymond to be a well-rounded student who succeeded at all he put his mind to. He enjoyed learning and was sometimes a bit annoyed by others who didn't share his interest in academia. Well, he's in the wrong group when it comes to the fraternities. I know they definitely focus on GPAs, but He very much enjoyed nothing that he actually completed his associate's degree before receiving his high school diploma, which allowed him to join the Vandal family at the University of Idaho as a junior. Wow. Go Vandals. Holy. So he was like a savant. He was intelligent. And he was graduating early on top of it. He proudly pledged himself to the Phi Delta Theta fraternity, and as a member of the Idaho Alpha chapter, held the bonds of his brotherhood in high esteem. All who loved him looked forward to seeing everything Ray would accomplish in the future. Though his life was cut short, his family and friends will continue to feel his presence at social gatherings and sense his spirit when they see God's glory in nature, especially rainbows. On July 24th, 2023, Ray was united in heaven with his grandparents, as well as 3 heavenly siblings. Oh my gosh. He is survived by his parents, Scott and Robin, his grandfather, his sisters, and his nephew. Our little blessings from above is now in the arms of Jesus. We will forever hold him in our hearts and shall be with him again. So they held a service Monday, July 31st at 11 a.m. at Trinity Lutheran Church in Rupert, Idaho. So he was beyond smart. So here he is with his sister, and she has a page, Unique Twist Jewelry. It wasn't supposed to be this way. As your sister, it was my duty to protect you. So what am I supposed to do now? And this is July 27th, 2023. A few days after. Look how cute he is. And then she writes here, please be patient with me. The loss of my little brother has left us heartbroken. Accepting this is hard. Seeing the pain in your eyes when you see me is beyond hard. I'm not ready for that. I have many, many unread messages, emails, and texts. Please know I feel the love. I just need time. UTJ is on hold for a bit. Healing is messy, and there's no timeline for healing. See, this I can relate to when it comes to grief. You know, I need some time. I'm in shock. I can't do anything. I'm a mess. I'm in shambles. Especially if it's your little brother. And he was that smart. And he was going to graduate soon. So he's going to graduate soon. And it sounds like it's a suicide. What were the signs and symptoms? Because there are signs and symptoms before. Many may not have noticed them at the time, but when they think back, they would say, yes, this happened. Yes, I recall this. It's just you didn't see it at the time, which obviously you're going to be feeling extreme guilt because you think you may have done something, but this is what I think about Hannah. Like, she wasn't showing those signs. Which is why there's such a fury around her. I'm not quite sure about the bullying and the fat shaming. If I see information about that or learn about that, then definitely I'll put that in consideration. You know, I'm not going to deny that. But I wonder if he had any type of signs and symptoms that led up to this. And this is the same fraternity that Hunter was in. And this happened not even a year later. 11/13/2022, going into 2023. And then this happens in July, 6 months later. And I did do a post on my community of a rugby player. Same thing, suicide. People try to look up information. If there's not any information, it's usually suicide. We have information here about him because it just depends on the family. Some families, it's so taboo, as the fraternity, that the beta, that's their whole, it's taboo, and to not have it be. But everyone deals with these types of issues differently. So here are the extras. So here is November 13th, 2022 at 1:44 a.m. Anna Berry. And here she is with Bethany, May 3rd, 2022 at 3:30 p.m. Here's November 12th, 2022. Lisa Thompson. She hangs a lot around Bethany and Jenna. And she's also a Pi Phi. So here she is with Dylan, November 12th, 2022. And they're all dressed, ready to go. And this looks like it's in the home of 1122. You go down there, and that would be Xana's room. Here's the good vibes. And here she is with Jenna McClure, which we have talked about before. And this is November 12th. And here's some more at the home of 1122 on November 12th, 2022. So here is after. This is McCall, Idaho. And here is Dylan and Bethany, July 5th, 2023. So throughout all those, this is at the end of the post. Nothing about Xana. And this is 4th of July. So you're going to post this on July 5th. Not on July 4th, but on July 5th. Here is May 8th, 2023. I posted this because here is Lisa. And here is this. He is in a fraternity. I don't remember which one. But this is a door handle. And it's broken and it's apart. I just find that interesting. You're going to do a post with taking apart a door, a doorknob, door handle. And here they are together. I can't read it because of it's in the way. Something 4th, 2023 at 11:12 p.m. And here we have Dylan and Bethany again. Oh, this is Lisa Thompson's. She's Baddie Bisa. So this is November 19th, 2023 at 11:12 a.m. 21, can you do something? So here they are together, and here's Dylan. Here we are, November 19th again, 11:13 a.m. Dylan with Lisa. She definitely... I'm not going to say too much. So here is Elliot Lund. I'm putting this here because he was in the body cam footage on August 16th when they were talking to him, asking who was like who are the renters of the home, and he's like, I am. And this is Elliot Lund. And I want to say that's it. Those are the extras. We went over Peyton already. And I do have extras of LMK. No. So that's it. A lot of information. A lot to think over. A lot to hear. My head is spinning. It was a rough day just recording this with the dogs. The dogs are going wild. We have company over at the same time, but we made it. We got through it. Congratulations. Those of you who just wanted to hear the part 2, go back to part 1 because there are a lot of new details. I want to say it's about 50 minutes long of information, of just summarizing it with the old, bringing in with some new. I did not do more details in this part 2. That will be part 3. Depending on how quickly I go through it, it'll probably be in another week that I will do the part 3. And in the meantime, while getting that together, I'll be looking into doing Linda Lane and Grub Truck because it's time for me to do that. And for a research paper, I have a couple ideas on what to do with those. One of them is the staging of crime scenes. That's definitely going to be one of them. That's probably what it's going to be, staging of crime scenes. I'll do that after Linda Lane and Grub Truck. So let me know what you think. I will be preparing for part 3. Thank you all for being here and listening. And we will be here again until next time.